Hi, I'm Kenneth Wajda. I'm a professional photographer here in Colorado. Welcome to another one of my weekly photo talks. So today I want to talk about my manifesto. I actually wrote a photography manifesto because I think that we are in a difficult time right now. Here's the thing. I want to document my family to make photographs. And one of the things that I was recently listening to was an interview with David Burnett, and he talked about he's a known photojournalist from back in the 70s through today, and he talked about how he wishes he had some photographs of him and his friends at their fraternity or at their dorm in college. The kinds of things that I agree, I would wish I had some of those kinds of photographs too. The things that seem so ordinary, sometimes we don't photograph them. The fact that we're in that time and we don't see it, and so we don't make photos of it. And you could take your camera everywhere, but if you're not shooting those photos, or if you're taking your camera everywhere and you're shooting street, you're shooting portraits of people, but you're not really shooting just the life that you're in. And I recently came across a group of photographs of my father that I never saw before. And they were from 1956, and he was in the Army, and there's photos of him shaving outside of a tent, and there's photos of him at a little restaurant, and it's fascinating to me. And I keep thinking that those photos don't exist without those little snapshots being printed and putting them into a album or into a shoebox under the bed. And here it is 75, no, 65 years later, and they exist because of that little piece of paper that holds them. And that also was part of the presentation. The presentation was a snapshot. You saw a picture the size of a snapshot. That's the picture in its presentation. Whereas an 8 by 10 photo that I print for somebody is presented as an 8 by 10. I have a little peeve with when I give somebody a photograph to look at, I want them to see it. And when people say, here, take a look at this photograph, and then you have to pinch to zoom into it, I don't want it to be an interactive photograph. I want the photograph to be the final thing. This is it, presented, it's done. You don't have to zoom. This is at the distance that I want you to see it, based on the size of the print and where I hung it. And for right now to be on phone screens and to be zooming in, I'm going to zoom into this corner, now look over here, hey, who's that? I don't want to look at photographs like that. And so my manifesto talks about, I'll be a film photographer or a digital photographer, but my goal is to make photographs. I'm going to print photographs, I'm going to save moments, and I'm going to document those things that are important with the goal of not showing my work all because of a like, with the goal of not having the likes dictate what I'm shooting and how I'm shooting. It feels like we're in a Facebook world where the movie The Social Dilemma is out right now on Netflix, and it talks about how it's so much about how to get you to continue to stay on there and just keep being a part of their platform. And to me, I don't know if I want photography like that. My photographs don't get a ton of likes. I'm on Instagram, they get a handful of likes, and I also keep my list of contacts kind of small because I don't want to be making photographs for likes. If I put a photograph out and it gets likes, great. If I put a blog post out and it gets views and likes, great. But I'm really making the work because it's the stuff I believe in. It's what I really care about. Even these weekly video talks, it's like, I love talking photography, and I'm glad to have an audience that wants to listen to me. And it's not like I'm just doing it for the likes. If it were, I'd be holding up a Leica every week because those are the ones that get all the likes. But the goal is to talk photography and to like make it about what are we doing. And right now we're in a place where the most common delivery system for a photograph that you or I make, if we put it on Instagram, is for a second before the swipe. And I don't want my work to be seen like that. And I want my work to have more value than that. And as David Burnett said, he'd like to photograph those old things, but then he would also like to be able to make sure that he's keeping it in some form that's actually a photograph. It's like, to me, making digital photographs, making film photographs, and never making a print is like, you have the potential for a print, you have the potential for a photograph, you just shot a bunch of negatives. You're Vivian Mayer. You made a whole bunch of negatives that you never processed. You made the work, but unless somebody finds them at an auction, no one is ever going to see them because they just won't exist. And she famously didn't process a lot of her film. Some of it might have been economic, some of it might be she didn't really care, or it just got overwhelming and out of control on her. But the point is it a photograph if she shot it and nobody finds it and nobody develops it? I don't think it is. I think it's a potential photograph. It's a negative sitting there with a latent image, but no one's ever going to use it, so what good is it? We have to print our photographs. So the manifesto talks about how much that photo from 1955, 56 meant to me, and how I want to create more of that. And I want to make photography about the photograph. And I want to hand them to people and gift them to people and make it about how can I share this with you in a form that is on your wall, it's on your bookshelf, and it's not in a place where, yeah, it's on the fourth hard drive down, but I don't ever look there. And I think that it's a challenge right now because everything is so fast and this seems so enticing. Let's just do it all this way. But at the end of the process, I don't feel like I've received anything. I don't want to make photographs for a like and for a swipe. And the photographs that I want to make in some form that can be used, whether they're used in a magazine for a commercial shoot, or for a business for a commercial shoot, or up on a wall or in somebody's home for a personal shoot. I want to make work that exists. And that's what my manifesto is all about. So I'll put a link to it. I did a blog post about it with those photos of my father. So I'll put that into the show notes. You can take a look at it. All right, that's today's photography talk. If you're enjoying these, hit the subscribe button. I welcome your comments on this, and I'll be back next week. We'll talk photography. As always, here's the good light.